Let's tell some folks some things they may not otherwise know. All right, we'll start with quarterbacks, but not the ones everyone's talking about. There is a team in this draft, the Chicago Bears, that I think would desperately love to get a quarterback that could help them immediately. They are picking at 20. So the likelihood of them moving up to get one of the 5 quarterbacks whose name everyone knows, I think is very unlikely. So the question is there a quarterback in this draft who is likely to be available at the 20th pick, or perhaps sometime later, second round, third round, whatever the case may be, who you believe is ready to step in and help an NFL team starting immediately?
Yeah, I think there are 3 names. And like you said, we've gone at length about the big 5 quarterbacks in this class, so we can move on from them because they won't be there at 20. So I think you start with Florida's Kyle Trask. He is a Heisman finalist. He threw 43 touchdowns last year. He's 6'5", 240 pounds. He doesn't have the strongest arm. He isn't the most mobile, but he's accurate. He's very good when the pocket's clean. So he has a lot of the tools that you like, where you say, okay, the Chicago Bears, Andy Dalton's going to be the quarterback for 2021, most likely the whole season. Kyle Trask doesn't have to play right away. But coming out of Dan Mullen's offense at Florida, I actually think he is ready to get out there and play immediately. After him, you get into a conversation of some guys who are very, very opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of experience. Kellen Mond was a 4-year starter at Texas A&M for Jimbo Fisher. He's a very good athlete. He's 6'2", 205 pounds, has a very, very strong arm. The questions there are inconsistency. He wasn't very productive. You can watch him make a jaw-dropping throw, and then he'll do something and you want to pull your hair out. So he's incredibly inconsistent. The hope is that you can coach that out. And then Davis Mills at Stanford, who was a 5-star recruit way back in the day. Everyone wanted him. He goes to Stanford, gets hurt there. He's only played 13 games over the last 2 years. So there's a lot of question about inexperience, but the traits are tempting enough that a team like Chicago, the Pittsburgh Steelers, New Orleans Saints, there are enough teams in round 2 that I think we see these 3 quarterbacks go in that area.
I do too, but hold on a second, because let's not mix them together. To that point, there were 2 different kinds of teams that could be taking quarterbacks at that point. There's the ones like Chicago, which is why I specifically meant someone who could play immediately. Then there are your Pittsburghs, your New Orleans, your others that have the luxury of saying, I'll take a guy and I will stash him. I will develop him over a year or 2. To me, that guy is Davis Mills from Stanford. Again, for people who don't know who he is, and you just touched on him briefly, he was the #1 recruit in the country the year he came out of high school. He's from the state of Georgia. Georgia wanted him. Alabama wanted him. He winds up going to Stanford through a combination of injury and then, COVID stuff. He's only started 11 games. But when you look at the measurables and you look at the arm and you look at his ability to run and you watch a little bit of the tape, to me, Matt, this guy seems like if you develop him, he could have as much upside as any quarterback in the entire draft.
Oh, absolutely. And what's crazy is we don't see the draft and develop quarterbacks anymore, because you draft a quarterback, you play them early, or there's even like Mac Jones this year, guys who would normally be late first, early second round for a lot of teams, they go top 10 now. It's just Trey Lance, Justin Fields, whoever you want to throw into that mix. So I think Davis Mills is intriguing because he is truly a draft and develop player where you don't want to put him on the field right away. He needs more reps. He needs time. But as you mentioned, the arm talent is off the charts good. And he's big. He's 6'5", 220. I mean, he moves like an NFL quarterback. He makes all the throws that you want. So if you are a team, as you mentioned, where you don't need him right away, the value could be exceptional, where in 3 years we could be talking about Davis Mills as one of the best quarterbacks out of this class. He has that type of talent. It's just a matter of, with more experience, what are we going to see with more experience even? It's just trying to even find, okay, what are errors that we can fix? What are some of the things that this is just who he is. Those aren't going to change. So there's a lot of unknowns there, which makes him a really fun prospect.
It is. Matt Miller is with me here on ESPN Radio. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. The thing that I've learned as I have gotten going through all these players is that I think sometimes we look at this as though, well, if you don't get one of the really high-profile guys going right at the beginning of the first round, you're done. You didn't get a quarterback. And the reality is half the league is made up of quarterbacks who weren't taken then, right? And that's right. The reality of this. If I said to you right now, 5 years from now, the best quarterback who was drafted this month is going to be Davis Mills, I wouldn't find that to be all that surprising. And I think most people, not only because I've studied it as much as I have, where I think most people haven't even heard his name around the country, and that's the fun of this. All right, Matt, let me get a few things into you that while I have you here. I think people know the names of 3 receivers in this draft. They know the 2 guys from Alabama, Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle, and they know Jamar Chase, who opted out last year but was the Biletnikoff winner and just a mega star on the LSU team that won the championship 2 years ago. After those three guys, who's the wide receiver every fan listening to this conversation should be over the moon if their team takes him?
Yeah, I think Elijah Moore from Ole Miss, and he is not the biggest player. That's the key with Elijah Moore. He is undersized at 5'8" and 5/8 and 185 pounds, but his yards after the catch are electric. He's small but plays aggressive. He's feisty. He'll get in your face a little bit. But he is also fast enough to stretch the field vertically. So we talked about, you mentioned Jalen Waddle. He's this great deep threat. He's this great yards after catch player. If your team misses out on Jalen Waddle, Elijah Moore is the consolation prize that you want to get. And like last year, Justin Jefferson was the 5th receiver drafted. He ended up being the best one. Some of that was based on where he ended with the Minnesota Vikings. That scheme fit was great for him. I think Elijah Moore, if he gets to a team like the Buffalo Bills late first round, where they have a Stephon Diggs, they have a big-armed quarterback in Josh Allen, he could thrive there. So, yeah, if you miss out on those guys, you're going to be okay because there's a player like Elijah Moore sitting there late first round.
Yeah, he's one of several little guys, if you will, in this draft. Yeah. Tutu Atwell from Louisville and Rondell Moore from Purdue and some others who are smaller in stature but who are really good. One more quickly, while I could do this forever, but one more quickly. The top of the draft is going to be all offense. So if you then got whatever pick you had, take your defensive scheme out of it. You could take any defensive player in this draft. The most impactful defensive player in the whole draft falls to you, Matt. Who are you taking?
Oh, I'm taking Micah Parsons. I still have him rated as my number 5 overall player. He's 6'2", 245. He runs a 4.43. He can play edge. He can play stack linebacker. He can cover running backs and tight ends. We saw in the Super Bowl how valuable players like this are. Look at Devin White, Levante David. Micah Parsons is in that similar mold of an off-ball linebacker who can actually impact the game.
Opted out from Penn State this year, but yes, a superstar.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.